You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
And we're live. We are here. It is another fantastic Saturday and another fantastic day for Asher Elias, the 24th best FC in the Imperium, or 23rd. I think he might have gotten briefly promoted. It's really kind of hard to tell. And myself to run our mouths and talk paint off wall about all things EVE Online. And we actually have some stuff to talk about in terms of EVE Online. Holy crap, it's been a week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. So this week I'm actually recovering from the flu, so I'm going to need you to carry more of the load. Remember when Celine Dion wrote that song about how she couldn't speak, so her creepy older husband had to do it for her? In this scenario, I'll be the Diva FC who can't talk, and you'll be the creepy alliance leader watching me play with my thorax from afar.
Alrighty, we are already 15 seconds into the show and have already had a dick joke. Sally Salomon for 14 months. See you at FanFest Goons and Sleep Dealer. Jesus Christ. That was unexpected, Asher. All right, well you get to be the diva. Apparently you can lose 6 pounds if you have a terrible flu. The flu season this year is, I guess, fucking horrible, and Asher is a bit under the weather. Misa Evil, 34 months. That's a long ass time, coming up on 3 years. That's impressive. Where is the boat? Boat's in Australia. Boat's been in Australia for like 6 weeks now. Titans, Diesel 1975 for 15 months. Thank you, dude. So yeah, we have kind of a few things going on here in EVE Online this week. We actually don't have like a big, lengthy pre-show menu. Like a lot of times, Jay Amazingness and the producers will get together and they'll write up a really nice document about what we're going to be talking about. Nanok Helsinki donated 1337 leet. Thank you very much. That's very cool, dude. Also, Maximus Powers just subscribed. People are throwing money at the screen. I need to set up a Scotch fund. Like I used to never actually do much with donations because these things go into like an Imperium News channel pool. But especially for the Stellaris stream, I think I'm going to go all solo Drakman and set up a Scotch fund where anything people donate, I just blow on Oban 14. So yeah, Asher, what do you want to talk about first? Like the two big topics we got today are going to be either the Keepstar shit in 9 TAC 4, which is what everybody in EVE is surfing dwarfs about, or the Citadel shit and the CSM summit. The CSM, the dev blog about Citadel structure changes just came out a couple days ago. Everybody is up in arms. What are you thinking?
I think the Keepstar stuff will be more fun. So let's hit the dev blog stuff first.
We'll get the dev block out of the way because the Keepstar stuff actually does get impacted a little bit by the dev blog. So let's dive into that. So yeah, I mean the biggest news here is that CCP has released a dev blog talking about a bunch of changes to Citadels. Some of them are I'm gonna use the top story menu for this. Even we haven't decided what our top story is, but I'm going to play this fucker here. So hang tight. Here we go. This will be our top story. Is the
flying by the seat of your pants, Goose.
I am here. It's just madness. I can't believe they let me stream. It's just a miracle. Alrighty, so we're back. Our top story today is going to be the Citadel dev blog. Question about the Stellaris stream. The Stellaris stream is tomorrow, an hour before the meta show time, so 1900 EVE, 1 p.m. Central. We do it every Sunday now. Tomorrow will be the second one, so it should be fun. Yeah, so CCP has released a dev blog. We've been expecting... I was expecting nerfs. I don't know about you. I mean, I thought that we knew that CCP was going to do something about Citadels, that there was going to be some sort of a rebalance. They've talked about that before, but I expected them to nerf Citadels. And what we really saw was just a whole bunch of new things that Citadels can do, plus like this weird hacking minigame. Asher, can you just try to give us an overview of all the shit that happened?
Yeah, well, there's really a lot to cover, but the hacking minigame is how you discover the vulnerability timer now, more or less, and it's I actually think that's kind of a cool way to incentivize the skill. I haven't seen a ton of people complaining about it. Some people have, but overall, I don't think that's going to be a big change. Um, it will be hard to do because I'm not an expert on hacking, but I think you have to get pretty close. And I think on Keepstars, you have to get within PDS range if they have the rig. So if someone's watching it, they can just turn it on and you're toast.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I think that'll work for anything because like, if you, of course, the Citadel won't be able to scram you unless it's vulnerable, but you'll have to sit there and hack. So presumably they won't need to scram you if you get lit up with target painters and shit, even for an Asterhus. So yeah.
right. Yeah, but the scram will be active. That's one of the changes. The scram will be active
Oh, really?
uh, all the time in the shield vulnerability. So
Oh, well,
uh,
that seems a little weird. So, I mean, if somebody is going to try to hack to find out what the vulnerability timer is, you're always just going to be able to zod
yeah,
them.
if it's manned, you'll be able to pop in, turn the scram on, and then turn on the PDS if it has that, or if not, you'll just be able to shoot them. So you basically have to like hope that they're not paying attention.
Butts, says Luminal Flux for 32 months in a row. Thank you. Yeah, so the hacking thing is, I don't know how controversial that is.
I'd say it's
Um,
minor. I don't. Out of all the changes, that it's not a huge one.
So you can always reinforce a shield timer, but if you want to know what the armor timer is, you have to hack it. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where people will be doing the hacking minigame mainly when they show up to shoot the shield timer, I guess. Um, but I don't
Yeah.
I don't really know.
The biggest changes are obviously, and this has been sort of walked back, are the GTFO, which is the Titan Doomsday that can send anything in the AOE range to a random point in system. And since they announced it was going to be able to fire every 90 seconds, which is it's incredibly unbalanced because they would just turn the scram on, whatever the FC of the anchor is, fire the GTFO at him, and whoever goes with him is a gravy. And in big tie-dye fights, as soon as you're off grid, you're going to spend like 15
30
minutes working
minutes
back.
or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. I
and on top of that, when you load grid, there's a high chance that your client crashes.
What I want to know is what the fuck they were thinking. I mean, from what I understand, I don't know all the details on this, but the CSM was in Iceland when this devlog was released, and I don't know who was consulted about what. I know that a lot of CSMs, Jin Talon was apparently on some talk shows just before this. People have been doing the rounds, but this is like a feature that nobody asked for. Like nobody was like, man, I wish we could have GTFO on Citadels, especially because from what I understand, this sort of ties into one of the next changes, which is ridiculous, is adding a 5-minute invulnerable timer to allow you to fit a Citadel just before it onlines, such that now, because currently the way it works is when you kill a Citadel, if it's onlining, if it hasn't ever successfully online before, it's unfit. So the Citadel just has to be defended by fleets. But they're changing it such that when you online a Citadel, you get 5 minutes free to fit the thing and make sure it's all ready to go. And then when it has an opportunity, then when the actual onlining timer kicks in, the Citadel can shoot back and do stuff. So they're adding the ability to do this GTFO thing, but they're also adding the ability to ensure that every fight that a GTFO capable Citadel has a GTFO.
Yeah, and at least as is announced, you can put it on an Asbel, which I think an Asbel hull is now 4 billion ISK.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's a rounding error, at least for us, and for a lot of people, it's not a lot of ISK. Um, there's two things that were really holding back Citadels from having interesting fleet fights. Right now, you can take 3 doctrines to a Citadel. You can take Macarials, which is the most common. You can take Typhoons, yeah, or you can take Tempest fleet issues. Now there are some MJD doctrines. You can see MJD Rokes and Ravens, but those were kind of and this is from someone who loves gimmick doctrines. Those are gimmick doctrines that were forced in by the fact that the Citadel was so oppressive that they were the only options. But the things that were keeping you from having a lot more options were the Void Bomber with the unavoidable Void Bombs. Well, they got rid of Void Bombs, okay? And the Warp Scrambler. Now, they added this really weird effect where you can turn it on for 30 seconds, and then it can't be used for 90 seconds after that as some sort of compromise, I guess. But the problem is that with a web, a heavy newt, and a warp scrambler that can reach 250 kilometers, any doctrine that relies on mobility won't work. And this is where some Reddit geniuses say, "We'll just have more than one anchor." And even if that's like, say you have 2 or 3 anchors who are pretty good at those kind of fleets, one comes by and they know those instantly, and they just put the web on that person and the newt on the other person. It's just not a possibility. So CCP seems to be indicating that they don't want anything except these heavy commit, passive gun, passive tank doctrines ever being bought on Citadels, and we've been doing that for a year. When did they come out? Like a year and a half ago, 2 years? I don't even know now. A long time.
Time has flown. Yeah, it's been a
the
while.
Same doctrines over and over again. And like, doesn't CCP want to see sacrilegious Serbs, shield battleships being used? Like, how many times have we talked about a doctrine internally and said, "Hey, this sounds like a good doctrine. Something our guys will enjoy. It could be fun." Oh, but it doesn't work on Citadels? Well, we don't want to have people invest in it when they can't really use it much more because we'll never use them for Citadels.
Arindus is right about July and August of 2016. It is one of those things where, for the longest time, CCP had the meta in nullsec was just to use T3 fleets for everything, and it was like 3 years of just, oh, well, we'll just use T3 fleets for everything. And now they're like, oh, well, we should change things up. We're going to do a T3 rebalance, so it won't just be one fleet for all of nullsec. And what's happened in practice is that with the after adding diversity to T3 fleets and not having them just be the one type of fleet we all use, now we just everybody just use fucking Macarials for everything. Like, it's just yachts everywhere, which is cool by us. Like, that's fantastic. But it just does seem like there's every problem can be solved essentially by throwing just enough max at it.
I don't think you play MOBAs like Dota or League, do you?
No, I don't. I get too much guilt about it. I feel guilty about like when I fail and I let my team down. So
I can understand that.
Factories.
One thing that Riot, which runs League of Legends and Blizzard, are good about doing is that they change the champions a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They add or adjust abilities. So when you're playing these games, there's one character usually who's the strongest, and there's a group of 10 maybe who are like really top tier. But they adjust it a lot so that you don't see the same matchups over and over and over again because they get boring. And we were told that there would be a balanced team that would be working like full time, or at least, continuously throughout the year,
right,
towards these changes. But I haven't seen the fruit of that. And the changes that CCP come out with, it seems like they don't. I wonder if it's an intended effect, like we like this, or they don't understand why it exists.
I mean, I'm gonna take a wild guess that it's a lack of understanding. I mean, the number of people who are involved in balance, it's a handful of humans, right? But the number of people who are the players in nullsec that are optimizing things are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of human beings. So
Right.
it's just sort of like a brain trust imbalance. I have no idea. The whole thing about it is the timing is odd too, because so here's the thing. This is sort of like a nullsec politics segue, but it does relate to the Citadel dev blog. So when we started attacking this Keepstar in 9-Tech-4, which is something that it's a pandemic horde Keepstar that was deployed by one of their French corporations, and it was deployed geographically too far south. So it's a vulnerable place in terms of capped jump ranges. It's easy, relatively speaking, for the Imperium to push on it. But it's harder for the bad guys, Horde and their friends, to rally everybody together and defend it because it's just closer to the Imperium lines than it should be, essentially. So great, Imperium is attacking a Horde Keepstar. On the day that we started really going after it, Sword Dragon, who's the leader of Darkness, which is based in Declan and the Guardians of the Galaxy Coalition, sends this big herf ping out on broadcast talking about how we're only doing this because Sword Dragon is going to Iceland. And we're not even attacking him. at all. So anyway, motherfucker goes off to Iceland for the CSM summit, and I have no idea what took place there, but it looks like Sword Dragon is taking all this very personally, even though it's directed at Horde, and it's like, oh my god, like goons are attacking Keepstars, let's buff Citadels, buff Citadels, buff Citadels, and then lo and behold, we have this huge, just over the top Citadel buff coming down the pipe. And who has the most Citadels in the universe? Well, it's Goonswarm, so thanks, Sword Dragon. But I mean, I don't know, Asher. What do you?
I've got two metaphors. Which one do you want to use? Cutting off your nose to spite your face, or missing the forest for the trees?
Let's go with a nose analogy, I think.
Yeah, I think okay. So um, you have the Sword admitted that he asked for the changes to the lock range because there's this strategy where you put Titans at like 295 kilometers from the Citadel, and then you put triage like 355, so that they can rep the Titans, but they can't be hit by it. The Citadel, that is, because as soon as a Citadel can hit a Dread or a Fax, it'll absolutely obliterate it. There's no tanking them for it. So it's one of the only situations in the game these days where you would see an untethered Titan be put at risk, and there's just no scenario where you'd want to do that anymore because of the damage caps generally on things, and Sov doesn't require Titans to shoot them at. So there's just no reasons for Titans to be out. And so this was one of the last avenues in the game where a Titan could be used, and you'd have a chance to provoke a fight, and Sort got rid of it for a Keepstar that isn't his, for a fight that we don't want and we aren't pursuing, or a war that he's making up.
Well, that is part of it, is that like the level of hysteria, and we'll talk about this once we segue away a little bit more from this is like a natural segue from the discussion of the Citadel changes, segueing into the 9-Tech-4 Keepstar assault. But part of Sort's overreaction of personalizing this and making like an attack on a Keepstar that is nothing to do with darkness into an attack on, we totally launched this attack because Sort Dragon, who is not the leader of Pandemic Horde, was going to Iceland, because that really makes a big difference, and did all this stuff to overreact and freak out, and then that sort of like segued from what was seen, from what the bad guys are saying, is this whole idea that we're, I guess, invading Declan and invading the North and doing all this other stuff when we're just sort of poking at this thing that is just too close to our lines. Like I don't know how you get from Goonswarm is gonna, and the entire Imperium, I should say. So this coalition, our coalition, is attacking this Keepstar, and that's a sign that we're invading the North. Like, what's going on?
It's weird, and it's hard to make it jive with the thing that we're just the worst crabs and we don't have any desire other than to suck rocks all day, and then all of a sudden just gear up from that to we're going on a huge campaign. I think the funny thing is that of all the people who benefit from this, it's us who benefits from Citadels being buffed the most, but we don't want it done. Like we play this game to fight and to win fights, and like when we're saying, hey, this is kind of crazy, like it's weird, other than maybe like drone Russians, we're the people who should be most excited about this, I guess, if that's the right word, or benefit the most from it, I guess is the better way to say it. And we're going, dude, come on, like it's already super balanced in favor of the defender. Like it doesn't need to be more; it needs to be less.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts. Like one of the things that people don't see that's happening in Delve is like every day that goes by, just more and more Citadels are going down. Like I was looking at this in Region Commander the other day, which is like our internal dashboard system. If you have to scroll through, so like it's a dashboard, and it shows you each line is the location of a Citadel that's in our API system, or ESI system now, whatever the fuck it is. And down at the very bottom, it doesn't infinitely scroll. It's got pagination. There's 45 additional pages of Citadels in Region Commander just in our system. And there's like, I don't know, at least 20 per page, if not up to 50. Like it's just this big one long scrolling pile of text, and there's another.
Maybe 50.
It's fucking stupid. I mean, it's great for us. It's fantastic. Every day that goes by,
Well,
we put down more citadels.
so
So
one of the changes that's in the proposal, and that is just a barely modified version of actually the person who warned against this was CapQ and Gobbins, and they were both right. It's this thing where when we'll be able to set all of our timers for every citadel to the exact same sort of 4 hour time zone box. So say someone did want to invade Delve, and they came in and they reinforced 50 citadels in a week. All 50 of those would come in a 4 hour time span on the day and time of our choosing.
yep.
So we get in one system. We like for the wherever where they go, we get in one system. We tie dye it up, and we fight over one citadel maybe, and then the rest heal themselves. It's such a weird design decision. I just don't get it.
I have no idea. I mean, if you wanted to actually invade the north, you would go around the Keepstar, right? Like that's another thing about this. Like, is what's been happening up in ROIR and surrounding areas. Like, if you wanted to actually invade the north, you would leave Keepstars for last, right? Like they're big hard targets. They're a big pain in the ass. There's nothing stopping you just grinding Sov. And we have definitely done some Sov stuff around Cloud Ring, but that was mainly to muddy the water for the Keepstar shit. Um, but if you did want to invade the north, you'd go around the single point hard target and you'd wear the enemy out. You would essentially deploy the same strategy against the blue trolls as they deployed against us in the casino war, which is you find the group of people that nobody likes, and then you generate a shitload of sov timers over and over and over and over again, and then you wait until everybody's burned out, and then you sweep the sov, right? Like that's how you invade a region, guys. Just kind of throwing that out there, um, instead of just like storming a castle that's not central to the north at all for
Yeah, I mean
obvious reason.
the actual way to that in invading a region will have to go if someone ever even tries it, because like I don't think anyone can leave their home regions now, but for an extended period of time. But if they change the game where you can somehow do that, you won't siege all these citadels. You'll just siege their space. Like you'll make it impossible for them to live in it. You'll break their spirit, and then once they're gone, then you'll just blow up the citadels uncontested.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Dirk says that the castle is blocking the route, and I'm not sure whether he's being sarcastic or just repeating what the horde guys are saying. Because like to just do Sov attacks, all you really need to do is base out of NPC. So the Casino War playbook is you base out of NPC pure blind, and then you just do the Sov harassment and all the stuff around, uh, and away you go. But I don't know. I mean, it's fun for us. We get a chance to try out some new tactics, and we'll see what happens. But why don't we actually let's officially segue. Like, is there anything else we want to talk about? I mean, the Citadel. Some people in chat are saying that CCP is backing off the GTFO thing. There was one suggestion that the GTFO thing was included simply to have something to back off on, and the general consensus is that Sword Dragon is a paranoid, overreacting. Dude who's making an attack on Pandemic Horde into an attack on Darkness.
I'd actually like to talk
Yeah,
just briefly, if you
go
indulge
for it.
me. I think the GTFO was. This is what I've been thinking about. I think the GTFO was included because the dev work has already been done on it. It doesn't require a new dev. I think CCP, like, if you actually count the number of devs who do like coding and actual work on the game, it appears to be incredibly low. And I don't mean people who make new graphics and stuff like that. I mean people who actually tweak the game. Um, it seems like these guys are incredibly overloaded. So while I get frustrated at the lack of positive changes, it feels like there's just not a lot of bandwidth to for these changes to be done. What do you think?
I think that's a problem. I mean, I think it's accurate. That's one of the reasons why I was surprised to see the GTFO added. Is I don't think that CCP has much bandwidth. I was expecting to see an incremental change to Citadels, not well, from a certain perspective, it is kind of an incremental change because you're taking the hacking minigame, which is already an existing part of EVE Online, and you're also taking the GTFO, which is an unused, underused, practically unused module
Yeah.
that's already coded, right? So they're basically like taking different Lego blocks and moving them around. Um, I would like to see a CCP that is heavily invested in EVE Online as their primary focus, which is what makes them money and makes them actually survive and makes this game interesting. Um, I do think that there has been a uh, lack of uh, well-considered changes for a while now. I mean, every day that goes by that we're still stuck with Fozzie being not iterated on just continues to be a stupid day in space. Um, so I don't know. I don't know where to point the blame. I'm not sure whether it's a structural issue. I'm not sure whether there's a particular dev team that owns this one area that the player base says is a cancer, and the devs are like, oh, it's just a few people complaining about it, so that can't be true. It's really hard to say. I'd be very curious though to see probably our best intel as to what's going on there that the player base is going to get about the tea leaves of CCP are going to come from the anecdotal reports of the CSM about this particular summit, because like this shit went down while they were there. So if the CSM reps all come back and say, "Hey guys, it's NDA, but holy crap, CCP is tone deaf, and what the fuck were they thinking?" Then we have some idea of what's going on. Between this and the whole chat bubble things, as Zugbu points out in chat, it's ugh.
I convo roughly 15 people accidentally a day at this point now.
Yeah, I have no idea. Um, but yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about the actual totally not a war, but is a war, but oh my god, whatever. Like the Imperium is attacking the Nightac for our Keepstar. We've hit it a couple times now. The bad guys were kind enough as to feed us some Titans. When was that? I guess it was. We haven't had a chance to talk about this on the Meta Show, have we? Because the big fight.
No, that would have been
Yeah,
early
it took
last
down
week.
Monday, Tuesday of last week. Wow. So Asher, why don't you start us off? Tell for those of you who are just tuning in, maybe from the other side of
Yeah.
the galaxy, how did this get? Because actually, originally, and we were talking about this at the Illuminati meeting later, is that we have a whole thread in the Illuminati forum where Asher planned this whole thing out weeks ago of, hey guys, we're bored, let's hit this fucking Keepstar. So we will declassify that thread once all this shit is over, so people can see what we've been up to since the beginning. So Asher, take us there. How did this happen?
So once we spent a lot of time laying the groundwork for this, mostly in Australian time zone. Our Australian time zone guys were amazing, and so much so that they moved their timers out of Australian time zone to EU time zone. I think they believed that they could win any timer in Australian time zone, and basically our AU time zone put them in the camel clutch, broke their back, made them humble, the old country way. So they put them in the EU time zone now, and uh, and once we were all set, we started sieging the Keepstar. And the first day, we had Fortizar coming online, but we had to go in before it was online. So um, NC took their shot, dropped 3 Titans on us, and you saw the results if you were there. If you've missed it all, they went for a bosun with the BFG Titan module on our carrier fleet, and 2 of the 3 Titan pilots missed it, and the one other Titan pilot hit pretty well, but missed some. So we lost 1 Nidhogger, and we killed 2 of the 3 Titans. We killed 2 Ragnaroks, 1 Levy moonwalk out, and a pretty amazing escape.
There was an interesting thing. So we saw the combined, like there was this really weird sort of spin going around this. Like the bad guys have blue rolled up as usual. They're all like a big, super dense ball of rage. I don't think that they expected us to do this in the first place. Like I don't think that anybody in our hostiles expected the Imperium to aggressively start attacking a defended Keepstar. Um, but once we did it, like they're immediately the Titans were like, we didn't want those Titans anyway. Now, to be fair, it was very clearly like a suicide run. If it was going to go badly, it was going to go very badly. And if it went well, those Titan pilots would have been heroes. Like they would have, somehow vaporized an entire carrier fleet. But that trick, an important point about this is that trick doesn't work anymore. Like the Fortizar is online, you can't really do that on a online and gun fort.
But you can if they're not tethered. But
Yeah.
it's harder to line up if they can jump in and tether.
So that happened, and basically the instant those Titans warped in, I made the call. I was on comms, and I was just like, "We're just gonna ignore the Keepstar timer. Like 3 Titans, gimme, right? We're just gonna take this, kill their Titans, because it's not every day that somebody hands you 3 Titans on a platter. And they warped in. By the time we were done killing them, there was only 8 minutes left on the repair timer. So we're just like, okay, we've already killed 2 Titans. This is pretty cool, and it was still vulnerable. So we just reinforced the thing and came back the next day. Um, but the next day, the bad guys had changed their strategy and essentially sent pings to everybody saying that they weren't really going to bother turning up to fight to defend it on the armor timers. Um, I think they'd figured out that we were willing to just punt and re-ref it and just drain them and be shitty to them. We did warp an Aeon onto the Keepstar at 0 for no obvious reason, and but other than
I
that,
couldn't believe it. You ordered him to do that, and then he listened. That shows your magnificent power.
exactly. He took the order very well. It was fantastic. That was actually one of the funniest things that happened was seeing that because I was in Chicago at the time. Um, I think, or was that Tuesday? I was out for some reason, and I came back and then found out that like I had secretly ordered this Aeon to do something dumb, and like everybody had bought into it, which was pretty ridiculous. But uh,
I just realized something interesting, and the dates don't quite line up, but Asakai happened January 27th. B Takar happened January 27th. This is going to happen. This fight's going to happen January 23rd. What is
mm,
it with late January that seems to bring possible big fights to Eve?
that's a very good question. I don't know. Something about the winter doldrums. Either everybody's
Yeah,
inside because it's cold and playing Eve or something.
bundled up.
There probably is some sort of a structural thing happening there. One of the things that Voltels is asking about is that whether we should cover Grath. Grath Telkin did step down as CEO of Sniggertly in Pandemic Legion a couple weeks ago, and Headliner is now in charge. But Grath was on Open Comms last night, which was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, no, it's just sort of this interesting scenario where now that this Fortizar is online, most of Eve is getting together. Everybody is herfing all of these blurfs to get together and have this fight on Tuesday, and it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a tie-dye fuckfest. Like the probably the biggest danger to anyone is the server stability. Like this is going to be the most hyped fight in forever in Eve, and will the servers be able to handle it? I mean, there's no question we're going to see 10% tie-dye. What can we trust to actually work in heavy tie-dye?
Well, it's hard to say because there's been a pretty huge revamp since BTAC-R. We learned in BTAC-R that basically Titan Doomsdays were the only thing that we could really count on. Dread guns like didn't work, fighters didn't work, but we haven't had. I mean, we've had some big fights, but for instance, the ones in Hackenen were in Losec, which has Crime Watch, which really seems to tug on the servers, make them slow down and chug. Um, and Brain in a Box and the new server hardware has both come out since BTAC-R. So I think there's lots of ideas, but I don't think there's any like for sure. This is what will happen, and I can say it because I know for sure.
Right. Yeah, that it is. It always feels like a dice roll. Like it's sort of like a random battlefield condition of like, oh, you brought a whole bunch of dreadnoughts, but suddenly none of your dread guns work. Only Titan guns work today, and you just don't really know what to do until you get stuck in. That's why I think the GTFO idea is so dangerous with the Citadel plan. It's like, hey guys, let's have something that'll take people off of a field, and then you have to spend however much time getting onto it in an environment which is inherently unstable. Um, if they make that
Yeah.
only in high sec, that's one thing, but I don't know. I just don't know. Was so. I mean, this is a way we can talk about these fights. The Keepstar changes. Like if the Keepstar doesn't die on this go round and we reinforce it. So I mean, if we don't succeed in killing the Keepstar this time, we will reinforce it and keep at it. We can just do this forever until the Keepstar dies, simply because again the geography is such is that the Keepstar is really close to us and it's far away from the bad guys, so we'll just keep poking it. But let's say hypothetically we don't kill the Keepstar, we reinforce it, and we do it again a couple times, and it comes around to this patch hits, and suddenly the Keepstar has more range and other things like that. Is it going to change anything about this particular battlefield?
I guess a lot of it actually depends on the GTFO. They're adding some AOE effects that are annoying, but they're removing the void bomb. You're still not going to be able to do, like, say you wanted to do let's say a hurricane fleet. The bomb is still going to exist, and the regular bombs do like 200 DPS, which doesn't sound like a ton, but when you're doing it to the entire fleet over and over and over the whole time, on a fleet that doesn't have a lot of health like a hurricane fleet, it's just not sustainable. So smaller fleets will still have a problem staying on grid. And but yeah, it's going to depend on how hard they stay on the GTFO thing, because they're not changing the scrambler and the web in a significant way. The kind of doctrines you'll see will stay the same.
Yeah, that is one of the things about this that seems extra funny. If Sword Dragon did in fact whine about buffing citadels, that for totally to save his citadel, and this one has, it won't really impact any of the tactics that are getting deployed. I mean, I don't know if we want to get too many into too much detail about this for security reasons, but what we've been doing is pretty public, right? Like the way in which we've been when attacking the Keepstar is open and notorious now. Like you deploy super carriers, you deploy fighter bombers, comma lots of them, and it's basically from one citadel you have a shitload of drones attacking another citadel, and then there's this air war component. What do you think that we could? What do you expect to see on this Tuesday fight? Like, what do you think if people were going to tune in? How do you think it's going to go down, or it could go down?
Um, I mean, I'd be surprised to see like a full-on Super Brawl, Titan Brawl engagement. The mechanics just don't encourage it. CCP has actively worked against that happening, pretty much in all scenarios. They don't. Sov is intended to break you up and break up single point fights, so there's no escalation chain. There's no like non-damage cap structures to shoot, so there's no reason to put on like supers or titans to try to do it in a relatively quick amount of time. Um, the Sword Dragon got Citadels buffed so that you can't use the Titan tactic to shoot them. So there's really no reason to ever use a Titan now. Um, and so it can only happen if at least one side is willing to go against their best interest by engaging in a sort of negative scenario. And it's not 2007. The people playing this game are, and especially the ones running in the alliances, are generally pretty thoughtful people who don't want to risk years of effort by their pilots by going in on sort of a foolish waste. Like they'll do it in Drake fleet, sure. You'll do it with frigates, sure. But when it's these assets that your pilots have spent years and years building up, um, they're not going to be like, oh, let's just do it just because someone wants to see something fun on the stream.
Yeah, that's one of those things that everybody says that they want to be risky and do stuff, but that's in the mental story of being risky doing stuff, and winning is usually how that goes. Like, oops, you threw away 100 of your Titans for no reason. BR5 was a good example of this. Like, it took PL out of the game basically for 2 years. And it wasn't like, oh wow, like this was fantastic. Like we lost all of our shit for literally nothing, and then that entire war vanished. Um, but the structure of this Keepstar fight doesn't really require a BR5 kind of scenario. Like I saw some people talking about a BR5 2.0, but like the actual facts on the field of where you put your ships to do the thing. Um, I'm going to be very curious to see if it's even possible for the bad guys to uh, in a heavy lag scenario. In the past, we've seen drones will work, and we've seen anything else that's like on the CCP side, like fighters will continue to work through lag quite well. Is what happens.
It's been either sort of back and forth. In some fights, fighters have worked way better than everything, and sometimes they've just totally shut down. And it literally could be CCP decides who wins this one based on how their servers handle priority. So, um, and someone's asking, why build Titans then? Well, you still have to have them as a deterrence. Like if they have 3 times as many as you, they'll just go in because that's not risking anything. You still have to own them. I mean, they're the nuclear weapons of Eve. So if you don't have them, you can't fight wars.
Yeah, it's essentially a requirement because if you don't have them, then the bad guys simply use all of their Titans, and then you know every fight is sort of an auto won by the side that has the most Titans. So these kind of fights are taking place in an environment where both sides have relatively equal numbers of Titans. So there's always an arms race to get more. I don't know. I think if the fighters do work, which they might or might not, um, it's going to be. Well, I guess I probably shouldn't lay out too much of my thinking about this because
Cocat
we'll,
asks,
we'll find.
Asher, if that Titan BFG was successful, what do you think their next move would have been? I think they would have gone all in. That's my guess. I don't know. I'm not in their FC channels and privy to their thoughts, but if it had worked for me, if I'd risked 3 Titans and it worked, I would have gone all in at that point.
Somebody's saying that thoughtful attitude is killing the game. I started playing because I read about BR. We need to hype the game like that again. Well, that's something that only works once. Like, so let's say that you have everybody have a balls to the wall attitude in a game. Like, there's different types of video games, right? Like a session-based gameplay, like if a game of LoL or a game of Dota 2 or Counter-Strike, that's session-based gameplay. You're sitting there, you play the game, you win, you lose, you die, and then the next game is a totally different game. Uh, this is a persistent game. So in EVE Online, you can go all in and then you lose, and PL was taken off the table for 2 years, right? Like that's the way it works. So the reason why people are careful is because the people who went all in and were stupid are dead, right? They're not at the chessboard anymore because playing EVE Online in a way that isn't careful results in you losing all your shits, all of your shit, all of your ships, and your pilots going to organizations that won't mistreat them, basically. So it's a nice idea. It's a cute idea, but I think it's fascinating because back in the day, people would point fingers at Goonswarm and say that goons are too cautious, goons are too careful. We're the ones who are on the attack now. We're on the offense going after this Keepstar, so they can't really say that anymore without being too obviously hypocritical and stupid. But now they're saying, oh, it's just all of nullsec is too cautious. But the game rewards thought, not just pointless idiocy.
I'd like to weigh in on this, and I'll use a real world example, which I think Mittens gets annoyed by, but we'll see.
Go for it.
In real life naval warfare, which I think like battleship warfare from 100 years ago is actually pretty similar to Eve in this way. There were a bunch of admirals who sat around thinking, okay, when our battleships line up against their battleships, we'll all do this and this and this and this. And the political leaders would never allow that to happen. All these fights, Battle of Jutland, Port Arthur, all this stuff, it happened because of mistakes. Someone was caught out of position, something went wrong, and then the fight built off that. Um, and Eve battles are the same way. So if CCP wants these changes to happen, they need to put a scenario where you can have an escalation chain off a mistake. They've just taken the last reason to use Titans offensively out of the game with the Citadel changes that Sword Dragon really wanted. Um, so there's almost no reason for a Titan to be out and for escalation to start. That's where the BTAC-R wasn't planned. We didn't mean to have BTAC-R happen.
Manny fucked up. Manny fucked up, and that's why it happened.
It happened because of a mistake. And the next BTAC-R will happen because of a mistake. But CCP has taken away all the reasons for the mistakes to happen. There's no reason to put your Titans out. There's really no reason to put your supers out. So it's not going to be both sides say, hey, let's jump in and see who comes out with with the winner of this BTAC-R 2.0. It's going to be one side, oh, we messed up, better get faxes in there, better get supers in there, and the other side starts putting them in. And then they start piling in. It won't be planned. It will happen, though, if CCP lets it. But they're working against that. They either don't want it to happen or they don't know why they happen.
Yeah, I think that is a really key point, is that BR5 has been romanticized into some sort of amazing Titanic battle that was planned, especially because Manny and the people who are on the losing side of BR5 spent a lot of time and effort running around and telling everybody that it totally wasn't an accident and totally wasn't a fuck up. But they forgot to pay a SOV bill, and they lost control over their staging system because they forgot to pay a SOV bill. So they got the hubris, and then they put the wrecking ball on the field to try to fix things, and they did it at a time of the morning where we actually had more dudes than them. So BR5s happen when one side has a bunch of valuable forces out that it shouldn't, in a place where the other side actually has overwhelming odds to win, and then one side jumps on the other, and then there's the sunk cost fallacy kicks in, and it goes from there. It's not like everybody's staring at each other across a trench warfare sort of scenario, and it's like 50-50, and then somebody's like, let's roll the dice.
It's actually interesting the amount of parity that appears to be right now in sort of the Super Titan numbers. They're pretty close. And people generally don't like to go in on 50-50s when that much is on the line.
Yeah, loss aversion, that is not how loss aversion works, right? People are like
Yeah,
50-50, ooh, if it's more like 80-20, then that's a totally different
yeah.
scenario. But as Alcantar is saying, they still claim it was a bug and that the bill wasn't paid even when the corp had the money. Uh,
Did Manny ever admit that he? I remember like years later he admitted that he was that Titan spy. But did he
it,
admit that he actually did mess it up, or is he still holding out that it's
I
not?
don't think he admitted it.
He's a persona non grata in PL now, so like they all like make fun of him, which
Oh,
is pretty
really?
crazy.
Huh.
Yeah, he went to the Russians. He's doing stuff with them, and the PL guys are brutal towards him. It's actually, I don't know. It's kind of sad.
That's kind of shit. I mean, Manny is a dangerous opponent because he's relentless. Like Manny will, and even if we beat him in BR5, like Manny will just go after you and go after you and go after you and go after you. Like he will no life the game to prosecute a grudge. So I don't know. The thing that's happening with PL is a little bit weird because this whole Killa B in NC dot and Killa B trying to like tell PL what to do in order to come help with this horde Keepstar thing, and PL is doing stuff in Providence instead. I shouldn't talk it up too much because it's actually, if I'm like, hey guys, Killa B is trying to tell PL what to do on the meta show, then they might say that I'm trying to manipulate things and then show up more to stick a fork in my eye. But beyond that, like you really do see PL is kind of doing their own thing these days, and they're not nearly as balled up with NC dot as they used to be.
It is. It's. It seems like a time of flux. In sort of the NCPL relationship, and I don't know the exact details, but they're definitely from the outsider perspective seems like there's a lot of moving and shaking going on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The fact that there is some change up in the relationships in Eve is interesting. Like it does seem like Reddit used to be pretty much in hock to PL, and it seemed like the R Eve crew was like this one big PL fan club, and they seem to have turned on PL over the last 6 months or so, and it's no longer like a PL fan club, which is nice to see because we're hostile to both R Eve and to Pandemic Legion, so seeing them all turn on
Yeah,
each other, but it is kind of
I mean,
curious.
PL are kind of like the dudes on the motorcycle with the leather jacket who they're pretty cool when they ride up to the bar the first time, and it seems like Reddit kind of bought into that. But like once once you've been on the other side of it a few times, and you know that they're kind of how it ends. Uh, but you can't tell someone that, you know what I mean? You can't. You can tell them, but they won't listen. It has to happen to them, and that's what happened with Reddit. They got stars in their eyes, and these guys are the savior of Eve. And then when they realized, oh, not really, they actually did exactly what we said they would, and other people said they would because they've been through it before.
Yeah.
Then they kind of turned on them pretty quick.
Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm very curious to see what goes on because I think that the level of reaction we're seeing from people about this Keepstar attack is so beyond what I initially expected. Like I'm used to everybody in Eve getting all freaked out and getting a case of the vapors whenever Goonswarm and the Imperium goes to war. But there are other things happening in Eve. Like there's this big Providence fight, like Test killed an NC. Fortizar in Oh Shit and the PL1 in Jamunda. So like there's this whole other side of Eve that stuff is happening in.
Chinese, Russians, and Tri are having big cat battles. Like they're slugging it out.
Exactly.
And no one's talking about those. They get like one thread on Reddit with like 25 comments because
Right.
they're not. It's not English speaking people mostly, other than Try.
And it really is just this whole oh my god, like big war with Goonswarm kind of thing. But I like the fear. I like the idea that these guys are not used. I think the expectation that our enemies from the Casino War have had is that we would just sit and delve, doing nothing forever. And the fact that nobody has actually gone after a Keepstar for real. Like the MTAC-O Keepstar wasn't really defended by CO2 at all. That was just a one-sided thing. Um, this is an actual gun to solid Keepstar, and we're the first ones going after such a thing. And I don't think that uh, that makes the galaxy a less safe place for our enemies, which is good. I think that they should feel fear. But,
Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't think by any means we have a guaranteed victory or anything like that. We're gonna have to put up our best effort and show up in our best numbers, and hopefully it works like that. I'm very concerned just about the servers, like even if we do our best and if the servers are working against us, because that tie-dye timer, the fact that it doesn't work, it works without tie-dye, it's going to be it works that works against the attacker very much.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Querns is saying here in chat is that our enemies do spend so much time talking about how much they want to war and all this stuff, but they never actually go to war against each other. So anytime we make any kind of move, they instantly band together and talk about how this is totally going to be, the next big thing, even when we're just like blowing up a Keepstar that was put in a position that it shouldn't have been in. But
There's a
yeah,
fake Querns on Reddit now who's really masquerading around.
they have a fake Querns. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's
I'm checking out the chat here because the I guess somebody's saying that the GigX did kill a lot of shit in the Keepstar. They didn't really have any hostile fleets to defend the Keepstar. It was basically him gunning it in one area, but I don't think that there was a scenario like we see here where there's like a multiple fleets facing off actively against a given Keepstar.
this comment from Mech is really interesting and a concern too.
Which
About
is what?
He said, didn't CCP put out something out about Spectre Meltdown being patched for them? Will tie-dye be even more prevalent with the up to 30% slowdown? And
Ooh.
I'm not a computer science expert, but from everything I know, servers are like the most affected by Spectre and Meltdown, and so it seems like that could be a huge problem.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is this would be the first time we've seen a heavy tie-dye fight. If there is a so Spectre, for people who aren't paying attention, Spectre and Meltdown are those Intel processor exploits that are hardware, and I don't know too much of the details, but it is potentially um, taxing on CPUs to fix this exploit. And so we don't know. Maybe there's less processor power available for CCP's hamsters than there was before. So God only knows. Lola says, yesterday NC outlined a defensive Keepstar in jump range of 9-4, and all the North Superfleets moved there. What's your statement on that? Will that make the 9-4 Keepstar defendable? Not really. I mean, the thing about the 9R Keepstar, 9R4, excuse me, 9-4 Keepstar is it's just close enough to J5A that it's easy for us to drop things on. The bad guys having their own Keepstar to stage defensive fleets in it doesn't really change anything because the entirety of Eve can ball up together in the Galactic West and prepare to defend the 9-4 Keepstar. They could do it by parking their supers on a Fortizar. They could do it by parking their supers in a POS. They could do it in a Keepstar. But it's so far west and it's so close to the Imperium that all of these guys are now just sort of stuck. Whenever we ring this bell, all of the blue trolls have to come calling, and we can reinforce this thing with just super carrier fighters whenever we want to because we got a Fortizar on grid. So it's not so much about was it backfilled with defensive citadels to be able to defend it. It's just too close to J5A, and it's too easy for us to hit it, and it means that's why you're seeing Test is able to blow up NC Dot and PL Fortizars in Curse and surrounding area. And in oh shit, is that basically these guys have to commit to dropping everything they're doing to defend a Pandemic Horde Keepstar for as long as we feel like poking it. And it's very easy for us to poke it. So they can just have fun with that for as long as they feel like we'll keep reinforcing it. It doesn't cost us anything, so fuck it. I mean,
Are you kidding me? Yeah, it probably cost us at least 2 billion Iskin fighters.
Yeah. 2 billion, maybe even 20 billion Iskin fighters. Who knows?
Yeah.
However many billions of Isk in our fighters. Like, that's just terrible. I don't know whatever we're going to do. I really need to fix my OBS green screen lighting. I'm lazy.
Seems okay to me.
Yeah, we don't actually have anything behind the green screen here. Like, there's in that area of the star field. I guess it is flickering a little bit. But I'm rearranging my office tomorrow, so I'm not going to mess with it now. I'll have to figure out what the new configuration is going to be like. So yeah, Mittens, can I give you a Nix? Probably not, but I'm sure somebody can. But yeah, that's basically it. We're actually towards the end of the show here, which is pretty interesting because we managed to do this without any sort of plan or roster. The big news is really just our enemies are overreacting, and that's hilarious, and we're going to keep hitting this Keepstar. Sort Dragon is paranoid and annoying about a Keepstar that's not even his. Tuesday, 1900 Eve, will actually probably be more like 20. When does it come out? It's like 21 something or other on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's right around 2200.
Yeah, I would expect absolutely everybody to. It costs you hundreds of billions in undefended Rorquals and stuff. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I was told that a bunch of Pandemic Horde guys were going to come on the meta show and try to like spam chat or something about how we've lost Rorquals, but you guys can just listen to the Fireside Chat. Like Goonswarm's policy is always like we don't reimburse that. Like random idiots who are out there ratting and mining and they get blown up and they're not a standing fleet. They're just an example to everybody else. Um,
My take
so
on the supers and the Rorquals that die when we're deployed away, and we aren't telling we tell people, hey, you shouldn't use them, and they still use them. That's literally like when you're running away with a bag full of money and some hundreds fly out the sack as you're getting away. We still have the sack. Like that's how much we have, is that we're just losing these hundreds. We're like, oh, whatever. That's just cost of doing business. It's like Escobar when he wrote off 10% of his money because rats ate them.
right. I love
PL are the
Narcos, by the way.
rats.
That's a great fucking show.
Yeah, it is. PL's the rats. They can eat our money. We have so much in the warehouse. Like we don't care. Cost of doing business.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. Like when we deploy away, like we do try to take care of our members that pay attention, right? Like we have standing fleet set up. We have the life alert system. Like we have all these things that we do for people who aren't mushrooms. You can't reach a mushroom. A mushroom is a player who's like kept in the dark and fed shit. Like the kind of guy who is in high sec in Jita, never looks at forums, never reads media, like has like there are dudes in Jita right now who have no idea what a Citadel is, and they have no idea about the Citadel structure change blog or anything that us out here in like media land, the people who are plugged in players who are talking to each other, communicating on Reddit, communicating on forums, engaging with each other, are all aware and plugged in. But you can't reach a guy who's chosen to keep himself in the dark and feed himself shit. So those guys die, and they're an example to everybody else.
Yeah, one of the supers that died hadn't been on Jabber for like a month, I think.
Yeah,
There's nothing you can do about it, and whatever.
yeah, like fuck them. And that's basically it. Like that's our attitude. But apparently, our enemies seem to think that we are personally reimbursing all of these guys or something. Like none of these kills come out of the Alliance wallet in any way. Like there's no reimbursement for oops, you lost a ratting super when you weren't supposed to be out ratting. Like whatever. I am kind of disappointed though. I was. Oh yes, but goons, crabs, and miners will leave goons and join test if this will continue. I hope you actually believe that because that's adorable. If you really think that that is what is going on, then I have a bridge to sell you. Actually, I've got some Tide Pods to feed you. You can eat some Tide Pods. They're tasty, tasty candy. If you think that people from Goonswarm are going to up and leave to join Test because some Rorquals that weren't paying attention, I hear Tide Pods are fantastic. Actually, a bar that's on my Facebook page recently posted. Somebody made a shot that's Tide Pod themed. Like it looks like a Tide Pod. It's like blue curacao, Bailey's, and an orange flavored vodka. So it actually looks like a Tide Pod in a shot glass. I'm looking forward. Looking forward to that. I want to try that out. But okay, so I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. We've got so people are asking about the Stellaris stream. We are going to. Oh, this guy's mad. It's not like your Titans come out of the Alliance wallet, you Dumbo. This snitch pimp. He seems to be very angry. That's cute. Actually, I should have just shot him instead. That's good. I'm disappointed. I only got to shoot the one guy, and he didn't even really do anything all that bad. He just called me a Dumbo. But I have to.
Oh,
I have to
there was one
content
guy
myself.
with some racist terminology. I think we missed him though.
Oh, god damn it. That's a
Yeah.
shame. But yeah, so we've got my Stellaris stream is tomorrow. It'll be our second one. We're going to be continuing the adventures of the Xyrus Directorate and doing what we can to make the galaxy a less safe place. So if you want to watch me play Stellaris for 4 hours straight, 1 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, 1900 Eve time, I'll be here. I'll be playing Stellaris, and it should be good. Apparently, the racist guy got gotten, according to .com, so that's good. Yeah, sweet. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot, and thank you to Asher. We will see everybody either Stellaris stream tomorrow or the big fucking fight on INN. We'll be live streaming that as well and in game on Tuesday. So
I gotta brief something, Mittens.
got it. Go for
If
it.
you're in Karma Fleet, I guess even if you're not in Karma Fleet, Saturday Night Swarms tonight, so you can come to that. And if you like MMA or boxing, we're doing an MMA watch party today in Goon, so there'll be an opt-all ping for that. It's going to be around 10 Eastern.
Sweet. All right, thanks a lot, guys. We will see you next week, and let me play the intro, I guess, as an outro. So thanks a lot.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching